Hello and welcome to the Mindset and Mindfulness Podcast with me, your host, Sandy Powell.
Hello and welcome to today's episode. Our guest is Sarah Penfold. She is passionate about demystifying the stigma about money and finances to help people find their power and experience ease with this incredible resource. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much. It's so lovely to be here, Sandy.
Yes, thank you so much for taking the time and speaking with us today.
Of course, my pleasure.
Yes. Could you tell us a bit more about yourself and how you got here?
Sure. Well, like most people, I feel we heal ourselves and then find our work. And so this was really the case for me. I want to say about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I healed my own money story after struggling with it for probably the 5 years previous to that. And yeah, I worked with a mentor for 3 months and I had the most transformational experience, and I realized I am not done with this work. And so I studied with her for another 2.5 years and then started my own business. So yeah, teaching money and wealth in the way that I wanted to. And yeah, here I am.
Yes, and it's such an important work, right? Because I feel like there's so many people struggling, right?
Yes.
Staying out of debt or struggling with money, living paycheck to paycheck. So it's a really the on market topic, right? That, so many people are struggling, and especially with this time around, right? With Christmas coming and everybody trying to, provide for the holidays and make it a magical experience without hopefully going into more debt, right? It's always such a stressful time. So I think it's
Yes,
ever more
it can
important.
be. And then there's the
Talk about
sticker
it.
shock in January, right? When the bills come in and people don't realize how much they've spent, because there's this sort of fever that you get into during the holidays about making it memorable and doing all the things. And we kind of are encouraged to go to excess. And don't get me started on the marketing, right? Like it's almost expected, right? That you go overboard.
Yes, yes, yeah,
Yeah.
but exactly. People don't really do, their budgeting and do stay on target and have a clear number of like, okay, this is what I have
Yes.
available to make me feel okay next month as well, right? And so if
Yeah.
you just go blindly into, I don't know, and you just kind of go with it, then this is what happens, right? And you kind of let the marketing guide you wherever it
Totally.
leads. And of course, they take full advantage of like, oh, yes, max
Yep.
card. I mean, even credit card companies, right? They're always like, oh my God, you have, I don't know, $300 available. What you gonna do with this awesome money, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Or you'll start to get the, like, you've been approved
oh,
for a limit increase too. So
yeah,
they know what they're doing.
yes, but it's such a, uh yes. All right. Well, let me hear it from you then. What is something you also had a nice handle on it that the, finances and health kind of go together?
Yeah, well, I've been kind of a health health and wellness junkie for decades, right? I love personal growth and development. I'm always curious about like things that I can do to make my life and my body more healthy.
Right.
And I was ignoring the financial part. I was physically healthy, I was eating well, I had a meditation practice, like all the things I was doing right. And yet there was still this weight of like underneath the surface was this like invisible narrative that was going on inside about like, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be home getting your money in order. Like there was this constant guilt and shame about the state of where I was at with my money. And, I don't come from I don't come from wealth. I didn't work on Wall Street. I've never even worked behind the teller at a bank. Like I didn't have any financial education or background. I was like a wilderness recreation guide for a lot of years. Like I had very humble beginnings, farming family. And so money was something that was just kind of mystical to me. Like it was a mystery, and I was never taught it. Although I will say something that I say is that we're always taught about money from our family of origin, even if we're not taught about money.
Negative. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. So So I was taught, I had an allowance, a very generous allowance compared to my peers, and I was taught how to budget it. Like, okay, you're getting this bigger amount of money, but you're buying all your toiletries, all your clothing, all your movie night tickets with your girlfriends, all that kind of stuff. But I wasn't taught to save. And so I was taught to spend money. And so I had to learn as an adult. And it's a weird thing to get your head around, but saving is a habit. And it wasn't a habit for me for a long, long time. I would see money in the account and I would like, oh, I have money to spend. Seeing money accumulate was kind of uncomfortable for me. So it's these things are weird to talk about, but they're sort of true. And going back to your question, when I got my money and finances in order, I couldn't believe the difference in my mental health, and like I just felt like I talk a lot about ease, and there was a sense of ease that really descended on my life in a really beautiful way. And just knowing that every dollar that came in had a purpose, that I wasn't compromising myself. Like, I always hesitate to use the word budget because people have this internalized reaction of like, oh, you're going to tell me I can't spend any money and I'm going to have to sit at home and read books for the rest of my life. And that's just not the case. We're talking about putting boundaries on your money. We're not talking about restricting and you not enjoying your life right now, because life is meant to be enjoyed. But I don't want people to compromise their life 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now because they're over indulging in their life right now.
Right. Oh man, so many things to pick apart here.
Mm.
Yes. So bad rap for the budgeting. So that's definitely something I've come across as well. Like it seems like it's just so, it was like, oh, it's tedious. And then I have to, look at this. And yeah, like you said, I'm limited and so people get so frustrated or just kind of like so put off by just the word that they don't even try. But the other thing then too is if you don't, like I said, if you don't have a plan going into the holiday season or going into your vacation or whatever it is, your year, then things just kind of happen and money always gets spent. Like things always happen and opportunities always present itself. And without a plan of some sort, you just kind of get in this rolling thing and you never know, oh, I don't know what happened. I had, even like if people have like, like an extra bonus or like to get some money from somewhere, like, so many times I've heard like, oh yeah, it's just kind of gone. I don't know. Like I thought I'm going to do something. I pay off something, but and then we spent and we thought and we did and we, before we knew it, it was gone. Like,
the whole like FOMO and YOLO thing, like that really can trip you up. And you made me think of a saying that I really love, and that is that creativity without boundary is art, and creativity with boundaries is design. And that's what I like to refer to that second one as what's happening when we have a plan for our money. You're actually designing your life. You're designing the things that you want to have happen with intention. And that helps mentally with like, oh, I'm actually going to choose not to spend on this thing because that's not part of my plan. And I'm like building towards whether it's buying a home, going on a, bucket list trip, creating an experience with your family, your children, or your partner. All of these things are goals that we want to pull us forward and that we can like lean into in those moments of like having to make a decision. And when we don't have that, it's just so easy to part with our money. And fintech, which is financial technology, makes it so easy to do that now. We, when I think about when I was younger, and I mean, even in my lifetime, well, I'm going to divulge my age. I had my 50th birthday, and it was interesting for me to learn that credit cards, women were only allowed to have credit cards without a cosigner the year that I was born, so 1974.
Oh wow, I'm 84. I just turned.
Yeah. So I was like, wow, you sort of grow up thinking, oh, this is the state of money and this is the state of finance, but we don't realize that it's a thing that's evolved. And that was a very interesting part of my financial journey, is learning, like reading about like where money came from. And I teach about that a little bit in my programs too, just enough to sort of, again, demystify and make people think, oh yeah, it's not, we didn't have credit cards 200, 300 years ago. It was a lot harder to part with your money. Even 40, 50 years ago, you had to go and get cash and open your wallet and hand things over. There was all these kind of physical barriers to parting with your money. Whereas now fintech has made it so easy. I can just like swipe my phone over a POS and my money's gone. Or Google remembers my credit cards, right? So it's so easy to like, there's no like impulse control in those moments if we don't provide it ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. Because if you look at your wallet and maybe you don't have all of your money, but at least you see things getting, it's getting smaller, it's getting less and less. And you're really like, oh man, I only have, I don't know, $40 left. And do I need to spend, like there's definitely something. And yes, doing it with the phone these days, you don't even realize, or like you don't even have your card anymore, your wallet out anymore. It's just all in the phone, just it's your all access point, which is useful at times, of course, but it really, it takes back those boundaries, like those, like it makes it so much easier to just kind of,
yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah, you touched on something too around time and people feeling like making a plan or, the B word, having a budget is so much time. And, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say it's not time. It is. And in the methodology that I teach, after you've built your system, the time you spend on your money is minimal, like 30 minutes a month. And I like to challenge people because when you think about the other areas of your health, like how much time do you choose to spend, taking care of your physical health at the gym, lifting weights, doing yoga? How much time do you choose to spend on your mental health, meditation, journaling, creative practices, all that kind of stuff? And then how much time do you choose to spend on your food? Do you choose to like cook really nutritious meals? So there's all these areas where people are choosing to spend time on their physical and mental health. But for some reason, money is like, oh, it's too much time to track everything. But one of the things I've learned, and because I've dug into it, is the correlation between finances and stress. And in the US, 72% of people claim that finances were a significant part of their mental health and stress. And stress has incredibly negative impacts on our bodies. So that's where I started to realize that I wanted to presence financial wellness in the health and wellness industry because it's not talked about. And it is such an important part as I experience and then as I've started to actually validate through the research.
Right. Yeah, that was when you started with the time. That's where I wanted to go. I was like, oh my God, how much time are you spending worrying about money? Right? Like if you don't have your budget, if you do have the mountain of debt and you overspend on Christmas, like how much time are you then worried about, or like spending on like damage control? Like what are you not paying and what are you doing? And on the phone with creditors or whatever, like, right? Like setting up payment plans and things like that. Like that is so much time too, like dealing with the aftermath, dealing with debt. So there's a lot of time spent there. So again, you choose how you spend your time. So you can choose to make your budget and then take care of that ball before it, and like you said, design a plan, design your life and use it to positively influence your future. Or you use the time to clean up your mess from the past, right? The choice is yours.
Yes. You're making me think of a couple. So I love metaphors and I love like one-off like little quotes because sometimes they can like really solidify a concept. Mm-hmm. And I heard this one recently, what you're not changing, you're choosing.
Exactly.
And that one hit me. And I want to like umbrella caveat that like these are comments that are meant for people who aren't in like experiencing poverty. Like there's a certain amount of privilege that I like that is inferred when I talk about these kind of one-off statements. So these certainly don't apply to everyone, but if you have a steady income and you're fairly well resourced, and you're not looking at your money and you're stressed about money and you're not that's kind of the context of like, yeah, if you're not changing it, you're choosing it.
Right.
And then, with regards to worry, like if worrying worked, it would have worked by now. you know?
Yeah.
And this is part of the work that I believe in so much, and the method that I have. So yes, I teach financial literacy. Yes, I teach about planning and tracking, and I have all the tools for that. But I also teach about what I call financial EQ. So your EQ is your emotional quotient, right? And so your financial emotional quotient is around how well do you know yourself with money? Do you know like what beliefs and triggers and traumas that you experienced as a child? Big T or little t traumas. Traumas is sort of a blanket word that I feel like infers these big, massive events. But no, traumas can be very subtle. I mean, there's not a lot of nuance yet in this language. So, we could just refer to it as a trigger. But like, what are the things that happen that you just react to financially without really like, well, where did that come from? And why do I think that? And why do I believe that? Yeah, looking at why we spend, understanding even our brains kind of default ways of being. So yeah, the negativity bias, the present bias, like all the things that our brain will naturally like default to that sort of trip us up when it comes to our money. So there's all these like internal tools that I love to give people as well. Because yeah, when you're sitting, you come home from a long day of work and you might choose to, disassociate and like tune out, whether it be media. Some people, this is when they do their shopping, right? Like they're on Amazon, and our brains, we literally have less ability to for willpower at the end of the day. So one of the first things I tell people is if you find yourself, scrolling on Amazon or falling prey to the ads that are very intentionally pushed your way on any of the social media platforms, stop. Like, don't buy anything, keep it in the cart, look at it the next day. Do you really need it? Like putting some checks and balances and learning how to circumvent your own nervous system when it comes to parting with your money.
Yes. Yes. I feel like that's also where the health part comes in too, because what I've noticed in the past is like, right, when I was struggling with money, like I was, frustration eating. So like I couldn't get it in check. And then so I was frustrated about the situation. And yes, I would also sometimes buy something to feel better, but that was not as much me. I was more towards the food, right? So that is something that I had to really go and check. Like, is this something that, I mean, in general, when I get stressed, right? I know that about myself. I need to double check, like, is this really something I need to eat right now because I am hungry? Or is this something that my body is just kind of looking for, like a nice dopamine hit? Like I am frustrated, I am stressed out, I am, just kind of looking for something. And could I choose something different, like a walk or something that could also give me a good, a little high versus that food?
Absolutely. And it's you're right. It's exactly the same. The ultimately we're just trying to get out of some kind of discomfort. Right. And this is the like point that anyone needs to make the choice to change. And I'm not saying it's easy. Like these are often really deeply embedded nervous system responses that we have that do take some intentionality and like effort to shift. But this is life. This is the life experience, right? And the beauty of like going through that journey and experiencing the benefit on the other side is like why I love health and wellness. It's why I love personal growth and development, because we're always evolving as people. And for me, it just got to the point where money was that next point of evolution for me. I couldn't ignore it anymore. So yeah.
But that's why I like you also teach the financial literacy, the financial EQ, because that helps with the awareness, that helps with, looking inside and really finding the triggers, looking back, like how was I raised? What was the topic of how in the household about money? Like was it there? Was it available? Or was it always like, money is hard to get and you either have it or you don't, or you need hard work and things like that, right? Those are some sentences I grew up with, so I really had to deep and be like, is it really so hard to get? And do I really have to work hard all the time? And is it, never enough? Or is it something, right, that is something that just kind of was the era back then, and like hard work and kind of my parents, and these days you can really deeply like, okay, is this something that I want to pass on to my daughter? Is this something that I feel, or is this something I don't want to pass on, or like, do I see it differently now? But
yeah, totally. Well, and having that realization of like, oh, is this my belief? Because I learned the same thing that you did. My father's lineage is farmers. And so there's a very direct correlation between physical effort and financial gain when you're a farmer. And so my mentor helped me see that and understand that. And, there's all kinds of different ways to make more money and to earn money and to invest. And don't even get me started. There's like all kinds of fun things, but when you're living in this subconscious belief of like, if I want to make more money, I have to work longer hours, I have to work harder. It felt exhausting for me to want to make more money. And so that really held me back for a long time in terms of my income earning potential, because I didn't want to burn myself out. I didn't want to work more. I still wanted to live. And one of the big ones I see is a version of money is the root of all evil as well. And so there's a sort of self-aggrandizing or feeling of moral superiority for not becoming wealthy, for staying in some sort of like financial lack, because you don't want to interact with the financial system. That was it part of me as well. I had a version of that. And what I realized is that I had to tease out the difference between money and the system. So the system is absolutely a racket. It is bullshit. I am not here to pretend that it is the pinnacle of morality. There are some serious issues in the financial world, but money is, I feel like it is a resource and it amplifies the heart of the person who wields it. And if you are a good person, then you're going to be able to do more good in the world by having this resource. The people who are hoarding wealth like those are human ego failings. They're greed, it's power, it's, but I really want good people to get good with money so that we can sort of shift that balance and have better people, good people better resourced. Yeah.
Yes. That's true. I grew up with, money is bad. Money, makes the character bad and things like that. That's true. That's something I had to come with too, because I was like, yeah, but money is neutral, just like a gun is neutral or a pit bull is neutral. Like it depends on what you do with it, like if you teach the pit bull to be aggressive, that's what he does. If you take the gun and do good things, like a police officer, maybe you can do good things. If you have money and you go as intentional with it, and you can help people, right? You can provide meals, you can, I don't know, donate to your favorite charity, right? You can help sick children, you can help puppies, you can do so much. Education, right? You can do so much. You can plant trees.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's the first question I'll ask people. If someone comes to me, and I had this conversation with a client recently, and they talked about this is like not wanting to, I can't remember exactly how they worded it, but it was there. Like they didn't want to, they didn't want to be rich. They weren't interested in chasing a lot of money and becoming really wealthy. And so this is the question that I ask. I said, okay, so I'm going to give you $1 million tomorrow. What are you going to do with that money? And I start listing off all the beautiful things they're going to do. I'm going to pay off my parents' mortgage. I'm going to buy a family home. I'm going to give to this cause that I care about. I'm going to buy this person a new car because I know that their wits end, and like whatever, all these beautiful things they're going to do for their family, their community. And I'm like, what part of that is bad? What part of that is evil? So it usually makes people pause a little bit, because it's like, yeah, it's not money that's the problem. And the analogy I usually use is a car, right? A car is neither good or bad, but whoever's behind the wheel of that car, if they're out of control on the highway, they can do significant damage. But if you're a good person just trying to get to the grocery store, so yeah, money, to kind of sum it up, money is neutral, and it's the energy of the person who has it that gives it the meaning.
Exactly. Yes. Very important. Very
Yeah.
important realization, and really like let that sink in, right? Like if you're struggling with this, or you're like, you were growing up with those comments as well, like really think about that. Like, is that
Yeah.
true? Is it not true? Because that's where, that shift comes, right? The realization of like, is that actually true? Because so many times, yeah, like you said, we weren't raised, we didn't have the good role models. It wasn't necessarily taught in school how to budget, how to do things, which I really think should be part of a curriculum,
Absolutely.
like so many other good things. But hey, I could talk about this for a long time too.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up struggling with high school calculus. And like, when have I ever used a sine wave as an adult? I didn't need to learn about sine waves. I needed to learn about compound interest, the habit of saving, so many things. But here we are.
Yes, I feel like that would be so nice having that in school, just like meditation and downtime and better mental, you could have that
Oh,
in
yeah.
biology and sports. Like there would be so many other things you could teach there as well. But hey.
Oh, yeah. And the cynical part of me is like, oh, that's intentional. They don't want us to know, and whether that's true or not, I don't know. But the system certainly benefits from our ignorance. I will say that.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yes. Which is why they amp up. They're getting so much better with, they're using all the tricks in the shed to just kind of, yes, get you roped in, get you blind, and oh yes, you deserve that beer, and you deserve that new, I don't know, person, things like that. And
Totally.
make your family happy. Have ever more gifts under the tree, when, in realization, right? Like for us, it's really, right, coming together. Christmas is about, you want to spend togetherness, time together. It does not matter. For us in our household, for example, everybody gets one gift from Santa. It's not a multitude of gifts, one gift. And it's like the dog gets one, mommy and daddy and my daughter, right? Like it's everybody one gift. And then my daughter was like, well, but what if we just have like two gifts? And I was like, no, there's one gift for everyone. Santa blesses everyone the same. He has a lot of people to give one gift to, and that's the rule. And she goes with that.
Well, and I think that's really beautiful, because, that's a boundary. That's a boundary that you are setting with your family, financially, and even expectations around what's appropriate for like what you can have in excess and all. Like it's really a beautiful thing. And like that's all I'm talking about in my work. Like, it's just setting boundaries for yourself and your money. And shout out to Terry Cole's book, Boundary Boss. I think it's a must read for any woman, first of all, because we're so conditioned to overgive. But I was doing boundary work before I read that book, but then it just opened my mind to all the different areas that in life where I could have boundaries. Like, she just gives all this permission. And I'm not talking about, like, this is the thing is so I don't live in extremes. I kind of like, I believe that the truth is in the paradox, and there's sort of all this middle ground. And so when people think boundaries, often their first reaction is like, you have to start saying no and being mean to people. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Boundaries are just but they're just like, yeah, these very like padded walls that you have on your life. And um yeah, just gently communicating with people about your boundaries is a skill. And I have found that as I implement them, I'm well, I'm better resourced in myself, and I have more energy and clarity, and I'm able to do the things that are important and in alignment with what I want for my life.
Yes, I feel like boundaries are, yes, it's kind of like that be the budget word, right? But it helps you because you have to become aware of where is my boundary? What do I want and what do I not want? Or what is my goal, right? So it all starts with looking inward, with gaining the awareness and setting clear goals for yourself. Right. And then like making your plan kind of, and once you have that, then you can clearly communicate it and be like, hey, you know what? Like, I don't want to, I don't know, like XYZ doesn't, contribute to my goal, or I don't want to do that anymore. Like, that's too much, right? Like, because a lot of times you don't have the goal, just like overspending at Christmas, you will say yes to things that you don't want to say yes to. And you people please.
Exactly.
Like, oh yes, nobody will do the, I don't know, Christmas play for the children. So yes, I have to do it, right? Like things like that.
Yeah.
But when you're like really clear on like, oh no, my plate is full and this would be super nice to help out. But at this point, this would just push me and make my family, lack in things and stuff like that. Like you can have that boundary and be like, thank you for thinking of me, but no, thank you. I just can't help out. And that is okay. Saying no in this moment is okay because you're protecting yourself and your family and whoever is dependent on you to make that decision.
Yeah. Oh, you've touched on something so important. I've also been learning this lesson recently because, I'm someone who likes to help and contribute, and I received a lot of self-value in being able to say that, oh, I helped out, or I did this, or I did that. And it was actually harming me in a lot of ways because I was helping other people, but I was compromising the things that I need to do to keep myself healthy. And so learning how to be comfortable saying no, or to be comfortable not volunteering even, that is something that I still work on. I have to sit there in silence. I can feel the urge to help out, and these are boundaries. And it's also some conditioning that women have had in order to nurture and give and contribute. And so anyway, we're kind of drifting, but this also relates really clearly to money. And you touched on something super important, which was the goals. And that's also part of what I do in my programming, because knowing where you want to go, if you want to own property, if you want to have, a multi six-figure, $1 million portfolio, what are the things that are important to you and why? And then we start building your plan around that, so that you're feeling really good about the money and where it's being allocated, and then it's working towards something. Again, going back to that designing your life, right? So that you're not just falling whim to these spending urges and the advertising and stuff, and knowing that you're working towards something, it actually provides a sort of energy, again, that I didn't really know until I was experiencing it. It's a kind of there's two different kinds of pleasure. There's hedonic pleasure, which is about just not having discomfort in the moment. So eating the food, watching the movie, doing the thing that will keep you from feeling uncomfortable. And then there's eudaimonic pleasure, which is something that Aristotle coined, and it's basically the pleasure of working towards your goals, actualizing your potential, having all those kind of bigger, deeper things. And that's what I started to experience when I had my plan in place, because it's this deeper, I kind of equate it as a big, deep lake, it was calm. It was a different sort of feeling inside than that immediate gratification, because those are all dopamine hits, right? The hedonic pleasure, we're just going for the immediate dopamine hit, as opposed to looking at something a little deeper that needs to take a look at. And so, life has its highs and lows. And when we're living in that hedonic state, it's really exaggerated. And then when we're building these like deeper internal resources, the highs are still high, but the lows don't hit quite as hard, you know? And that's what I find because life happens. With anything, I think it's really important for people to separate around perfection. I am not saying that my system is going to be perfect in every single situation. Life happens, we trip up, but having that tenacity to come back, like always, always, always progress over perfection. Like living in that space of just progress and moving forward and like the pressure of perfection is often stifling and can really hinder progress. So yeah, progress over perfection. It's kind of my motto.
Yeah, I was gonna say mine too. It's like right here on my wall. Every time I get too busy,
Awesome.
it's like no. What is, yeah. I
Yep.
sometimes get into the detail and like, oh, this needs to be pretty and blah blah blah. I'm like, no. What is the
Yeah.
goal here? You want to do this graphic or this sentence needs to go so people can, follow this. Okay, so what's the simplest, best way to do it? Go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. No, that's definitely good. But I wanted to touch on two more things. Okay. The worthiness. Definitely, yes, your worth is not determined by anything from outside, right? Like it doesn't change if you provide a better gift or, spend more money, or yes, you provide ever more help, but then you're like, inside you're empty, right? And you can't really focus on you haven't filled your cup. And again, you can do so much more once you've taken care of yourself first, right? Like once you fill your own cup, you can show up with more love, with more resources. Once you have more money, right? You get your finances strategized in order. You can accumulate more. You can help more. You can have more time freedom, more wealth, whatever it is. You can help so much more. So I just wanted to throw that out again. And also the budget and goal setting, when people say like you have to say no to, right? I think you also need to focus on not just what you're saying no to, which is the debt and all the worry and the stress, but what you're saying yes to. You're saying yes to all your goals, your future that you want to create, right? I feel like that's the part so many people don't see.
Yeah.
You can say yes to also so many things that you cannot say yes to now.
So it's so true. It's so true. And this is a great example of one of the default parts of our brain, which is negativity bias, right? So our brains are meant to protect us. We have these internalized reactions that are like tens of thousands of years old that protect us from harm. And so our brains will naturally seek out the negative or the danger. And in this day and age, it can be like really irrational threats, right? Like I'm not going to be able to have the freedom of spending all the money that I want whenever I want, right? Like, so it's a very weird thing. But yes, to be able to recognize that, oh, is this my negativity bias? And to exactly your point, like I'm seeing what I'm not going to be able to, but like if I just flip the script and like what am I not seeing? Like what am I going to be able to say yes to by doing this? You're starting to like circumnavigate that default kind of way of being in the brain, and like that's part of the tools that's a perfect example of like the financial EQ. And so having that awareness so that in the moment you can be mindful and just switch your perspective.
Shift it back towards the goal, towards what you do want, instead of, oh, I can't have, I don't know, the pizza or the eating out right now. But, bringing everybody on board and say like, hey, but if we say no to the pizza, would you like to have the pizza and like, have this pleasure for one moment? Or if we work on this together, we can have, I don't know, a family vacation or something that we really truly want and enjoy,
Yeah.
We're
Oh,
really
totally.
shifting it. And like you said, instead of the quick dopamine hit, having the bigger goal and really focus on that, and also have the delayed gratification. That's also something I feel like, in our quick society, it's not often talked about and not often practiced with the little ones too, right? Like I think we need to shift the focus there too and kind of work on things like with the saving too, right? Like, yes, it's good you have an allowance and you work, like you have some money that you can spend, but yes, bringing in that saving piece of like, what is something that you want to work towards in the future and like, hold that back. Like you said, it needs to be a habit and practiced over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something
Yeah,
super.
that's one thing that I will often say to parents who ask me like, how do I teach this stuff to my kids? And like, well, you can't come at them with like how to budget. Like you first you have to make them respect money, and it's like their relationship with money first and foremost.
Mhm.
And yes, there's certainly things that parents can do behind the scenes, whether it's your RESP or your 529 if you're in the States, education funds, and there's all kinds of ways that you can start to leverage those kinds of accounts early on for your kids. But in terms of their behavior, teaching them the habit of saving
Mm.
is so key. So yeah, if they get an allowance, like automatically part of it goes to something, and they can choose, like get them involved with it. But that's one thing that I just think is would be so important to teach kids right off the bat. And
Yeah.
like, actually, I'll give you a real life example of that because I had a coworker, now a friend, and he was taught how to save by his grandfather. So he was taught a very different relationship with money than I was. This guy was able to buy his first condo at 29. And he wasn't frugal. Like he didn't like he was always on adventures and doing amazing things, but he also had the habit of saving. And
Mm.
so he comes to mind a lot when I think about that behavior and the benefit of having it at an early age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is something else, like if someone was just kind of struggling with the financials, and what is something we would say, where could you start? Is there a good place
Oh,
to start or something you could refer them to, or maybe an exercise or something you could share?
yeah. Well, two things. So one is I have a free quiz
Mhm.
that we'll post in the show notes. And this is around learning your money archetype. And so this is starting to develop that EQ piece. So there's 8 different archetypes. You kind of have a top 3, but if you just want to get started, focus on your top one and start implementing some of in the results for the free part. You'll get like a couple of little things that you can start implementing.
Oh, no.
So there's that. And then no one likes to hear this, but it is honestly, and the reason people don't like to hear this, and it's a perfect example because it is always, always the first big hurdle of resistance I see with people is they don't want to look at their numbers.
Mm.
And so as I will not get on the phone with someone for like people will offer to pay me for a free session, and I'm like, are you gonna have your numbers ready? I won't do it because like what are we going to talk about if I can't look at the state of your numbers? And it can be so hard, my friends. I am not implying that it's easy because the guilt, the shame, it is so, so taboo in our culture to talk about our money and finances. Um, but once you look and you see the numbers, things might not be as bad as you think. Um, B, if they are, but either way, you're going to have a place to move forward. And this is when the planning starts, right? And so it brings the locus of control back to you when you are at the whim of your credit card and you haven't looked. The control is outside of you. It's with the credit cards, it's with the banks, it's with the system. When you look and you start to get curious, the locus of control comes back to you. So the I don't want to gloss over and pretend that like there aren't moments of this journey that can be challenging, but that's why I'm here.
Right.
And to give people those EQ tools to navigate that. But yeah, it's really having that courage to look and start from that place because where else are you going to start from, you know?
Yes. Yes. Yes, I can tell from my own experience.
Yeah.
It was not
Yeah.
easy. It wasn't even easy to access. When I remember it, like we were kind of trying to, put all the numbers together, and like we're like, like where can we, like you had to log in, you had to find your login information, because like
Yeah.
paying things is different sometimes, right? Than actually accessing the statements. And like I was trying to put in order, like what are the what are the APRs for all these things to kind of see like that alone. Like I got so shocked. Like, what are some of my APRs for the credit
Yeah.
card stuff? And like really just putting it in order. And it was a process. I'm not gonna lie. And it was, yes,
Yeah.
it was eye-opening though. Yes.
Yes,
It really was.
exactly.
Like just like having it all together and just kind of, yeah, like you said. I mean, I think it was kind of more or less neutral. I wasn't like, it was somewhat as expected, not as bad, but also not super, yeah, okay. Something
Yeah.
we can work on, but it was good to just kind of, we had it all in a spreadsheet, and it was like really good to just kind of have a conversation like with me and my husband, like, okay, this is what it looks like. Clearly, there's some work that we would need to do here, right?
Yeah, totally. But then, again, especially if you're a couple, then you can like work on it together and it becomes something you can do together and it strengthens the connection. Just for everyone listening, APR is annual percentage rate. It is another way of saying the interest rate on your credit card. Part of what I do love teaching the literacy piece, because the literacy really demystifies so much. And yes, we talk about acronyms because there's so many acronyms in the world of finance. And I just feel like the literacy piece is so important with the EQ, because knowledge is power. There's no doubt about it. And knowing these things, like the sort of end result for me is that people can go in and have confident conversations with their financial professionals, whether you're at the bank or your credit union, which I'm a big fan of credit unions, or investment advisors, or whatever. You're able to ask questions confidently, and you're okay asking questions if you don't know, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But I think like the important piece really is looking at the number, figuring out where you are at. It's like, it's just like on the map. If you don't know where you're at, if you call the ambulance and you're like, I need help, I don't know where I am. Well, then how are you going to get to you, right? So you want to know where you are at the map, and then figure out this is where I want to go. And then you can trace a way of, okay, how can we get there? Right. But if you don't know where you're at, you're just kind of like floating about where I want to go. Like you can't really reach it, because there's just, no clarity, no real direction, no real goal. So it's really starts with figuring out where you're at, so that you then can figure out where you want to go, and then devise some steps of how to get there.
And now when you did that,
yes.
So I want to see if like your experience is like in line with what I say, because you did the work, you did a little extra work to figure all these things out, but like how much time do you spend now looking and managing your finances compared to that time? It's probably a lot less, right?
Oh, yeah, easy peasy. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like we cleaned up some of the financials, so it's not as not as different, not too many different things that we are looking at. But I mean, we just update it's like we created a spreadsheet, and it's really just like plugging in the new numbers, and then there we are.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like just, I mean, we did it like once a week for the longest time, or whenever we got some new numbers, just to build the habit and to always bring it back to top of mind. Okay, this is what we're doing. Because like once a month, you can already be in so much trouble. You could derail already. So I was doing it, weekly, and we just kind of had a little bow wow. Okay, look. And quite frankly, it was so good having each dollar mean something. Like it wasn't just laying there, but like I knew this is going here, this is going here, this is going here, and I felt very nice, and some peace of mind. I just felt, instead of not knowing and maybe being worried that at the end of the month like something would unexpectedly come and I didn't know how to cover it, I felt like really good knowing, okay, I have a bit of a buffer over here, but I also know like I have planned for all these things. Yes.
Yeah.
It was scary looking at it, and like I said, it was yes, it took some time to put the money, like put the things together, but once I had it, I did feel way more ease already. And
Totally.
yes, working on it, it was definitely so much helpful. Like, and it really moved us forward. Yeah. Like without it, you just kind of blindly trying to, throw things at the wall and see what sticks, like it's really
Exactly. Exactly. And there's a couple things I want to touch on here. Uh, throwing things blindly and sticking. Like when we're in that state of discomfort with our money, we are so susceptible to get rich quick schemes. There are three areas where I see companies and coaches out there really targeting people's pain. One is relationships, so love. One is like diet, physical health, and the third is money. And everyone is looking for a quick fix, right? They want, this person to like take care of all their debt and like not have any consequences. And there's a lot of loan sharks out there that will, oh, I'll consolidate your debt for a 30% APR or interest rate, which is like brutal. There are diet coaches out there that will like, oh, just do this one thing or take this one food or this one pill and you'll like lose 20 pounds in a week. And so we're always looking for that quick fix, and that's not how our nervous systems work. I am not here to say that, it's going to take you years to get your finances in order. It's not. You can make incredible strides in a matter of weeks. For me, I got like 80% there after this 3-month program, and my programs are about the same length of time. Like my goal is to get people 80% there in a shorter amount of time. And then there's, the last 20% is just, I believe, because you have to live through a full annual cycle, right? There's spending season at Christmas, there's tax season, and then there's another kind of spending season in the summer. So like getting yourself through an annual cycle, really making sure that you are capturing all of your expenses. Like it just takes a bit of time, but getting to that 80% is like, ooh, man, it is game changing. And so, yeah, getting people there in like a matter of, I guess, 10 weeks is kind of like my goal, just shy of 3 months. I can't remember the other thing I was going to say. Oh well.
But yes, that's true. Everybody wants the quick fix. Like
Yeah.
that's true. And there is most of the time, let's be real, there aren't quick fixes. It's all about putting in the work, figuring things out, and that usually requires some time. And yes, there's some things that you can alleviate momentarily and things you can reshift and rebalance and things just like, I don't know, with mindfulness, you can take your meditation and you will feel calm for a moment. But if finances stresses you out, then you will still need to look at your finances, right? Because like you can meditate, like you said, all you want, but the root underneath is you're in financial trouble. So you got to fix that. Right?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
like, a lot of band-aids and a lot of things, and there's usually not, there isn't, the one pill and the one thing and the one fix. It's usually a combination of things. And yes, we just gotta dig deep.
And the beautiful part of that is that we have control of that.
Yes.
So we have control of taking the step to look. We have the control of making these decisions. And when you kind of realize that you're the captain of your own ship, there's a bit of a mental switch that happens there, because it is really easy to flip into victim mentality. And this can be an edgy thing to talk to people about, but victim mentality is very subtle sometimes, and how it creeps in. And the only one coming to save you is you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can attest to it, but you can do little with, you can do a lot even with little, like even if you're in a total disaster state, like really shifting things around, having a good look, having someone guide you, right? Help you along. You can still make moves. Like you're never in a situation usually where you're out of every move. There's always a move to take that can ease something, that can set you up in a better way for the future.
Yeah, totally. And I know that it kind of can seem challenging or counterintuitive for people to think about spending money to get out of money problems, right? But my question is always like, well, where are you going to be in 3 months if you don't? Right. And this concept of ROI, like when I hired my coach, she was quite high ticket. But the money that I was able to find in my financial system, I was able to basically pay off the cost of her program in 10 months. So I was able to start putting that money aside into my investments. And if I had not taken her course, I would still be doing the living the paycheck. Like I was making great money, I was making the best money of my life at this job, and I was still dealing with the same financial patterns that I had when I was making 60% of that amount of money. And so there's and this exists even among millionaires, is that life will be better if I only make 20 to 30% more.
Yes, that's also a thing. Yes. Once if you have the wrong strategies, right? If you're not looking at where your money goes and things like that, you will still overspend and spend it on the wrong things and still not manage your money right, even with more money. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So learning how to manage before you go after that, higher paying job, or before you, do whatever to make more money, like you need to have that plan in place. Like there's so many crazy stats about lottery winners, right? Like something like 80% of lottery winners are way right back to where they were within 5 years of winning the lottery. And when I talk about the nervous system, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like they're still doing the things they were doing before they had the money. So they're probably experiencing lifestyle creep, right? So, I'm now a millionaire. I need to have the fancy cars and the fancy house and so learning, like shifting how you are being with money is absolutely key. And then when you make more money, like it gets managed better, and you're not going to experience that lifestyle creep, and you're going to be able to, have more money set aside and like live your silver fox years in like the best way possible.
Yes, that's perfect. What a wonderful way to end. I love it. Little silver fox ears. Yes.
Mhm.
Design that life. Design the life.
Yeah,
Exactly.
totally.
Oh, what a powerful episode. I really love it.
Yeah, it was a great chat.
Yes, yes, I think so too. So if someone wants to connect with you, what would be the best way?
Yeah, so my website is sarahpenfold.com. When you go there, that little quiz will pop up, and we'll also post a link in the show notes. I'm on all the socials at Sarah Financial Wellness. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And from there, I do have a free resources page as well. So if you go to Instagram, you can just go to my free resources and you'll see book recommendations, other podcast episodes. Again, the quiz to download. And there's a bunch of little tools there for people.
Perfect. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I'm really excited about this. I hope a lot of the listeners are gonna take advantage and take charge of their money game.
And I do free 30-minute consults as well. So if people are curious about starting, we can just have a conversation with no obligation. Like I don't believe in high pressure sales. That's part of my ethics and morals. So I'll talk about my programs, but there's never any obligation. I just want to help people have a mind shift with their money.
Right. Just remember to have your numbers ready.
Yes. Yeah.
So you can actually, make use of the time, ask the right questions. Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so very much, Sarah. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was lovely to chat with you, Sandy.
Wow. That was a great episode. Oh my goodness. I had so many moments there. I felt like this was touching the right nerves. Yes. I mean, really, like designing your life, right? And focusing on what can you say yes to if you take charge of your financial situation. And I mean, like, really, guys, I've been there. I've really been there, struggling financially. I wasn't raised with good financial habits either. Like, there was never enough money. And yes, like I shared in the episode, there was a lot of financial scarcity and a lot of, a lot of the sentences that we all, a lot of us were raised with, and really coming to terms with that. And also like it's such a normality. Like we all have a, like it's, we all buy our cars with, on debt, and we all have, a credit card, and it's such like a normal thing. And you talk about, oh yeah, I have to make so many payments, and we have school loans and debt and blah. Like it's just a, it's a thing that we're so brought into. But I feel like, wouldn't it be fun to make it a thing to be debt-free? Like really imagine how that would feel if you just really had all that money that you worked for, all that money, like, and it is enough. Money is enough, and you don't have to worry about something that you can't pay for, right? And you paid a few regular things, and then you have a chunk of it also left for your future, right? Like how many times was I sitting there with my husband, like, oh my God, like we are paying off all these previous things, those fun things, like years later, and we're not putting enough towards retirement. We're not really focused enough about the future because we're so focused on hanging with our past, clearing up the past. So yes, if I can tell you anything, wow, please look at your finances and see where you can make a shift, where you can take charge and clear off that debt. Because man, it was really a total game changer to let go of all that old debt and all that old weight and all that worry. And what better time to do it at the end of the year or the beginning of the new year, and just kind of, start off new fresh goals and really taking charge. Make that a goal for 2025, or whenever you're listening, make that a goal for yourself. Just like your health goals and your vacation goal, take charge of that financial goal as well. Let me know what really spoke to you from this episode, or if you have more questions. Would you like more, on this topic? Would you like to hear more? Would you like me to invite someone else? Or do you have some more questions for Sarah? Just let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And yes, let me know, when are you listening to this? And yeah, do you have any other topics you would like to hear us discuss in the podcast? As always, I love you guys. I am so happy that you chose to listen to me and all my guests. I hope to hear from you, and I'll see you soon.